hearing Noam's comments, and I think it's great that on day one she asked TSA, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How can we make air travel more efficient while maintaining utmost security for American passengers and travelers? And I know they announced no more shoes, or you don't need to take off your shoes anymore at the airport, which I think is welcome news to all of us who travel a lot. But further guidance or decisions, of course, that's in the Secretary of Homeland Security's overview, and I would defer to her.
And the other question for you is on Bondi and Burgum's trip today to Alcatraz. I'm curious what the funding is going to look like for that, and who the president does want to see incarcerated there, if it were to become.
Sure. Well, this was an idea of the president. He spoke about it in May, and he directed his administration to review a reopening plan for Alcatraz if it is possible, which is why the Attorney General and the Secretary of Interior have traveled there today. They are touring the site, and if the Alcatraz prison is reopened, it would be under the purview of the Bureau of Prisons. And the Secretary of Interior also would play a big role in this as well. So they're there to review the site today, and I'm sure you'll hear more from them on it later. And just to follow up, Libby, on who the president wants to see housed in Alcatraz, the worst of the worst criminals in this country, both American criminals who convict heinous crimes, but also illegal alien criminals before deportation as well.
Sure.
Go ahead.
The State Department yesterday urged the Chinese Communist Party to cease its campaign to eradicate Falun Gong, a peaceful spiritual practice. With the anniversary of this brutal persecution approaching, does the White House have a message for the CCP on this?
Well, I will get you one, and we will get back to you. Sure. Go ahead. We'll take. Go ahead, and then go ahead. Sure. I've never called on you. Why don't you go ahead? In the red tie.
Hello.
Dr. Harper behind.
Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Me, thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yes, you. What's your name?
My name is Matias. Thank you.
What's your outlet?
I'm for Record TV, Brazil.
Great.
Brazil's President Lula recently said that President Trump was elected to govern the United States and not to act as the emperor of the world. And he also emphasized that Brazil is open to negotiation. I'd like to hear what you have to say about it, what the administration has to say about it, and specifically what areas are currently open to negotiation in the light of the 50% tariffs that were announced.
Sure. The president is certainly not trying to be the emperor of the world. He is a strong president for the United States of America, and he's also the leader of the free world. And we've seen a great shift across the entire globe because of the strong leadership of this president. In regards to Brazil, the president sent a letter to Brazil announcing their new tariff percentage. He also directed our USTR ambassador, Jameson Greer, to launch an investigation of Brazil under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974, designed to address unfair foreign practices that are affecting U.S. commerce. For years, we know Brazil's digital regulations and weak IP protections have undermined U.S. tech and innovative companies, and their tolerance of illegal deforestation and other environmental practices puts American producers, manufacturers, farmers, and ranchers who follow better environmental standards at a competitive disadvantage. So this president always acts in the best interest of the American people and the United States of America, and he will continue to do so. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you later. I appreciate the enthusiasm today.
So clearly they're not at the same scale, but Tesla doesn't even have published data around how many miles they have validated. So the number of validated miles is a very important metric. And from that standpoint, like you could say Uber didn't have a lot of choice. Nuro is one of the companies that was independent that they could invest in. Everyone else is sort of already either bought or they have folded, like Cruise. I mean, Zoox is another one. They have a partnership.
And that's Amazon.
That's Amazon. Yeah. So there weren't many companies to invest in, and I'm glad they did, because maybe DoorDash would have done something similar, you know, had Uber not come in right now.
Super quickly, Mandeep, in about 30 seconds or less, the company is aiming to launch its first vehicle later in 2026, and that's in an unidentified city. But they do have plans to deploy at least 20,000 of robo-taxis over the next 6 years. Is this ambitious?
No, because we know the scale that Waymo is at. Now they want to get into 10 cities by the end of the year. And I would bet by 2026, with the ramp up that Uber is laying out, Uber and Waymo may be comparable in terms of the fleet size. So I think it's a pretty good number, 20,000.
Mandeep Singh, Bloomberg Intelligence senior editor, senior tech, excuse me. He does it all. And because it's earnings time, you're going to see a lot more of Mandeep here in the Bloomberg Business Week studio. Coming up next on Bloomberg Business Week Daily, the former vice chair for supervision of the Federal Reserve, Randall Quarles, is going to be joining us. He's live with Mike McKee in just a minute. That's next on Bloomberg Business Week.
It's 2:40 on Wall Street. We do check markets all day long here at Bloomberg. We've got stocks pushing higher. S&P trading at a record 62.99 and change right now, up 35. That is a gain of 0.6%. The Dow also advancing, up 0.6%. Nasdaq Composite Index at a record up 0.8%. And the Russell 2000 Index up now by 1.1%. Economically sensitive shares outperforming after this morning's retail sales and jobless claims data. 10-year 4.45%, the 2-year 3.91%. Gold down 0.3%, 33.38 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude 67.61 a barrel, up 1.9%. And Bitcoin little changed at $119,777. After earnings, PepsiCo surging 7.3%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Hey, thanks for that update, Charlie Pellet. Tim Stenevec and Nora Melinda in our Bloomberg Business Week studios in New York. But let's go to Victor, Idaho now, just northwest of Jackson, Wyoming. From the Rocky Mountain Economic Summit. That's where Bloomberg News international economics and policy correspondent Mike McKee is joined by former Federal Reserve Governor and Vice Chair for Supervision, Randall Quarles. Mike?
Thank you, Tim, and hello to everyone who wishes they were out here in Victor, Idaho. It's a beautiful day, and we thank Randy Quarles for taking the time to sit down with us. Obviously, you run a investment firm now in Salt Lake City and New York. When you're looking at what's been going on in Washington from a distance, are you worried about its credibility, its institution?
I'm not fundamentally worried about the institution. I think that the desire of presidential administrations for the Fed to follow accommodative monetary policy is almost universal. The Trump administration is neither unprecedented nor unique in that at all. It's been almost every presidential administration. Mr. Trump goes about it in a somewhat more public way, but the Fed institutionally is very able to process that in a way that doesn't compromise its independence. So I'm not fundamentally worried about it.
Every Fed person I've ever talked to says politics never enters the conference room when you're making decisions. Scott Bessent, on the other hand, said the other day on Bloomberg Television that what Trump is doing is working the refs, trying to get a favorable decision. Does that have any impact?
Not really. I really don't think so. When I joined the FOMC, I knew the Fed pretty well. I'd been a Treasury official. I'd worked with the Fed in private sector capacities. I thought I knew the institution pretty well. But I'd never, obviously, been in an FOMC meeting where those monetary policy decisions are being discussed and made. I was very gratified as a citizen to see how absolutely unpolitical the decision-making process was. The discussions are open. They're intelligent. People of different political backgrounds agree with each other. People of the same political background disagree with each other. The politics do not drive the decision-making really at all, which is what you would expect me to say. But I was very pleased as a citizen to see how true that was.
The president's been very personal in his criticisms of Jay Powell. You worked with Jay Powell for years. Is the president off the mark?
I've worked with Jay Powell for a long time. In the first Bush 41 administration, we were Treasury officials together, and Jay is extremely is a much more than capable. He's a rare public servant for this country.
Now, as you look at the state of the economy from the state of Utah, what do you think in terms of the rate level now, and when or if they should be cutting rates?
So I believe that over the course of next year, the economy will evolve in a way that will allow some further loosening of rates. I think that the sort of the fundamentals of the economy support a higher short-term interest rate than we had before the pandemic, than we had in the first Trump administration. Not wildly higher. I think that rate will be entirely consistent with a dynamic and growing economy. And I think that the economy is responding very well right now to monetary policy, which suggests that the policy is not too restrictive at the moment. And given my view that I think that the terminal short-term rate is, likely to be materially higher than the pre-pandemic rate, I don't think that you could, if I were in the room, would I have a view as to whether the Fed should begin cutting in July or September or later in the year? That I don't know, but but I don't believe that they're causing any significant harm to the economy with their current monetary policy.
Randy Quarles, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, there you have it. Michael McKee, Bloomberg News International Economics and Policy Correspondent, standing by with Randy Quarles, the former Federal Reserve Governor and Vice Chair for Supervision. They're both down at, or over, I should say, in Victor, Idaho, just northwest of Jackson, Wyoming. It's the Rocky Mountain Economic Summit. It's an event that takes place each year with the top policymakers, Federal Reserve officials, former central bankers, and the like. And of course, it comes just ahead of the meeting next month in Jackson, Wyoming, where we will hear from Fed Chair Jay Powell. Had to cut that interview a little short just due to the wind, but if you missed any of it, you can check it out at Bloomberg.com and, of course, on the Bloomberg terminal. Taking a look at equity markets on this Thursday afternoon, the S&P 500 set to close at a new record. The S&P up 0.6% right now, as is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The Nasdaq up 0.8% as we speak. Also, keeping an eye on what's happening with Netflix, because we're going to hear from Netflix after the bell. Those numbers typically cross right at 4 o'clock. We'll be doing our simulcast with Bloomberg Television, so be sure to tune in on radio and TV for those numbers as soon as they do cross. Shares of Netflix up 1.7% as we speak. We should note that shares so far this year have been soaring. Expectations are high. Shares up 43% so far this year. And Nora, shares have close to doubled over the last year as a result of optimism around the way that Netflix has just really owned this new space.
Really on a tear, as you've really laid out for us. And of course, we had our previous guest, Alicia, talking a bit about what it looks like heading into this earnings season and how we're actually seeing a lot of churners coming back for Netflix's ad component, that ad tier component for the company. So it seems as though people are coming back for the shows like Squid Games and all these other ones that people would like to tune into. They're willing to pay $1 or $2.
What's your favorite thing to watch on Netflix?
You're putting me on the spot
I know,
here. Let's
and this
see.
I'm making a point here. I'm making a point here. You can't name it, right?
I can't name it.
I think there's this, I don't know if there's this different relationship that people have now with where content comes from than that they used to have. And I think that's a challenge for a lot of people who don't follow the space extremely closely, like analysts.
Right.
Because, for example, if my wife and I want to watch something, my wife will say, okay, I want to watch this. I don't even remember which service it's on. There's not really the association that people have like they used to. With, an HBO, for example, like Sunday nights on HBO when we were growing up. We did speak a little earlier to Wedbush analyst who talked to us a little bit about what to expect in earnings. That's Alicia Reese, Senior Vice President of Equity Research. She covers media and entertainment at Wedbush. She mentioned something that's interesting. This is another quarter, and this is how it's going to work for Netflix moving on. They're not going to be doing the guidance anymore or reporting the number of subscribers they have. That is the thing that moved the company's stock historically.
Right.
So Wedbush did their own research, and they found that there's strong retention, that even when there's churn, people are coming back, and people are coming back for the content. And, if you've been following Netflix for a while, you understand that Netflix is a company that for years said, we're never going to do live programming, we're never going to do sports, and we're never going to do advertising.
And we're doing it all.
And they're doing it all now.
We're doing it all. I mean, when you look at Wall Street, we have 42 buys on the stock, 18 holds, and only 1 sell. So, I mean, I think that this is really a stock that has proven itself. It's made it very comfortable across the street. Everyone's really behind it. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what we get from these reports, especially in comparison to all the other streaming outlets that'll be coming out with their metrics as well.
Okay, be sure to tune in. Netflix earnings, 4 o'clock Wall Street time, right here on Bloomberg Business Week Radio and on Bloomberg Business Week TV. Year-to-date, shares for Netflix up 43%, shares up 1.7% on this earnings day. It is Thursday, July 17th. We are just about an hour and 10 minutes away from the close of equity trading. The S&P 500 poised for a record close, up 0.6%. The Nasdaq Composite up 0.8%. The Dow up 0.6% as well. Coming up next on Bloomberg Business Week Daily, it is stocks that are on the move. Red Brown is going to be here in just a minute. This is Bloomberg.
listening to Bloomberg Business Week Daily with Carol Massar and Tim Stenivek on Bloomberg Radio and Television.
It is Bloomberg Business Week Daily. That is Nora Melinda in for Carol Massar this afternoon. I'm Tim Stenivek, and we are seeing a lot of green on the screen right now. The S&P 500 set for a new record, up 0.6% right now. The Nasdaq Composite up 0.8. Nora, the Dow up 0.6%. You and I were talking a much different tone than what we saw yesterday.
Risk on day. I mean, we're seeing the Russell up as well. We're seeing green across the board. As you look and dig into the S&P 500, we're looking at 10 out of 11 sectors in the green. The only laggard here is healthcare. We've got Infotech, of course, as the biggest outperformer right now.
Let's take a look at some stocks on the move today. I'm Tim Stenivek along with Nora Melinda. We're joined by Bloomberg News earnings reporter Red Brown. Red, a lot to choose from.
Yeah, it was. You know, lately we haven't been had such a bounty to pick from, so it's easy for me today. First one I'm looking at is Lucid Group. The ticker on that one is LCID. The big news today, besides that Tim will get to test drive another self-driving car, is that Lucid,
maybe in 2026. I don't know. You tell me.
I mean, with Lucid, there is a lot of question marks around exactly that. Whether or not, in the past they have struggled to actually kind of hit some of their production targets. But this go around, I know you guys are speaking with the CEO of the company today and saying that they will have the capacity to get these cars out. The news today, obviously, was the $300 million deal that Lucid signed with Uber to launch self-driving cars by next year. So it's another one of these deals that Uber is doing to just kind of flood the market with as many options as they can.
Have either of you been in a self-driving car?
I actually haven't. I don't know how I feel about them, to be honest.
Okay, Red.
I'm afraid. I feel like I've been on this show saying exactly that.
I was once like you too. I was once afraid.
You've been changed, transformed.
I went to San Francisco late last year for an event, and I was with a friend, and she said, "Have you ridden in a Waymo yet?" And I said, "No, I haven't. I don't really want to jump in one of those things." And she was like, "You have to do it. You got to try it." And it was really her endorsement. And she said, when we have friends come and visit, it's like a thing we do in San Francisco. You used to ride the trolley, you'd go to the pier and stuff. Well,
tourist attraction.
Now people get in Waymos. And I did it once. She dropped me off at a place where I could get a Waymo. Mm-hmm. I took it, and like every time I'm there, it's the only thing I take.
But is it cheaper than?
It's like the same price as Uber,
okay.
Or cheaper.
All right.
I compare them.
I mean, but I wonder is it just still going to be like a party trick? But it seems like there's so much money going into it, that at this point, like it feels like it will be something we're all doing.
So critics argue that yes, it works in a place like San Francisco because of the mapping that they've done, because of the way the streets are laid out. It's being tested in Los Angeles. It's in Austin, Miami. They're going to do it in DC. They're going to test here in New York. I'm talking about Waymo specifically. I think the big question is whether or not they can pull this off. Waymo or anyone else can pull it off in a city like New York.
Right.
Like a system
it
of
doesn't
capital.
go on the highways in San Francisco. It's just like
streets only.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Well, what else are you looking at, Red?
Another one on my radar is Pepsi.